Today on Passion for Food, we're going to be making spicy kimchi sushi. And don't worry, the easy cucumber kimchi recipe that goes along with it just couldn't be quicker. It doesn't need to ferment. We'll have this ready in a jiff. And if you like your rice on the outside or your rice on the inside, I'll show you both methods here. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing we want to do is prepare our rice. So here I have some imported, fair trade, extra fancy, premium, hand-rubbed. Oh, just kidding, it's regular white rice. And yes, normal long grain rice will work fine for sushi. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video. And to our rice, we want to add about 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, normally I would just use the old 2-to-1 ratio here, but we want this to be absolutely perfect. So instead, we're going to use 1 3/4 cup of water to our 1 cup of rice. That pan may have been a little hotter than I expected, but that's okay. Once this starts to come up to a simmer, we just want to slap a lid on and cut our heat all the way down as low as it'll go. And we're going to let this cook for about 15 minutes. After which, we're just going to go ahead and cut the heat off all the way, and we're going to let this sit here for about another 10 minutes. And while our rice is cooking, let's go ahead and prepare this easy cucumber kimchi recipe. Now, I'm calling this kimchi. I've seen other people call it kimchi, but it doesn't ferment or anything, so it's kind of a little bit of a kimchi-ter recipe. Anyway, this quick Korean cucumber salad is called Qi-Muchim. And it's actually really simple to make. First of all, we just want about 1 or 2 green onions. I'm just going to chop that straight into the bowl. To that, we'll add 2 or 3 cloves of garlic, also chopped. Next up, we have about 2 teaspoons of sesame seeds. Now, we could use them like this, but I feel like we get a ton more flavor if we take just an extra minute to toast these. You can buy pre-toasted sesame seeds, but I usually buy my sesame seeds in bulk because who wants to pay like $5 for a tiny 1-ounce jar of sesame seeds? Not me, that's for sure. Anyway, into our bowl we go, and next up here we have about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I know that seems like a lot of soy sauce. Trust me, I tried it with 1 tablespoon first. It wasn't salty enough. It does need 2 tablespoons, in my opinion. We're also going to add 1 teaspoon of sesame oil and 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now for the critical Korean spice ingredient, we want 2 teaspoons of this Gochujang. Gochujang, or red chili paste, is a savory, sweet, and spicy fermented condiment popular in Korean cooking. So even though our cucumber kimchi isn't getting fermented, the chili paste has been fermented, so hey, still counts. You could also use the Korean chili pepper flakes called gochujang. But the Qi-Muchim has been fermented, so I prefer that, but definitely use both if you want things a little extra spicy here. So let's just get all of that mixed to combine, and this is going to be kind of like the dressing for our onion cucumber salad. We only want about 1/4 cup of onion here, so I have a tiny little onion which I'm just going to go ahead and peel, but we want to leave the root end on. That just makes it easier to cut, and to cut it I'm actually going to use my mandolin today. It really helps us get nice even slices, plus I wanted to try and get this cool camera shot. But just a quick note, you should never use the mandolin like I'm using it without a handguard. You see this? Whoa, okay, I'm lucky I didn't lose any fingers. Always use your handguards, kids. I'm just a crazy person. Next up is our cucumber, and I'm going to be using 1 large cucumber, and just to make this a little easier to slice on the mandolin, I'm actually going to split this in half first with a knife. That's optional really, but it'll give you a prettier final presentation on your cucumber kimchi. I like to leave that one end connected just to make it easier to slice. And while we get this sliced up, have you heard about the cucumber that became a pickle? Well, it had to go through a very jarring experience. Anyway, let's finish getting that sliced up. And the reason I'm doing it so thin is because I'm going to be rolling this into a sushi roll. Otherwise, if this was just going to be a side dish, you could do it, much bigger and rusticer if you wanted to. Rusticer, that's a word, right? Well, anyway, it is now. We just want to get our onions and cucumbers all mixed in with this spicy Korean chili sauce that we've made earlier. And once we're happy with that, we can go ahead and set this aside so we can prepare our rice. And this is one time when the rice really does need to be perfect. If your rice is too dry, you might want to just start over. It's not going to work well for sushi. But this was perfect, so what we want to do is dump it out, preferably into a large metal or wooden bowl. That helps the heat to dissipate faster. Now, some of my more savvy viewers might be wondering why I'm calling this sushi instead of gimbap, which would be the Korean variant. Well, the reason is I'm seasoning it in the sushi style. Meaning for every 1 cup of rice, we want to season with 1/4 a cup of rice wine vinegar and 1 tablespoon of sugar. And we just want to mix those until the sugar fully dissolves. And then instead of just dumping it all in, it actually helps to use the back of a spoon to kind of just drizzle it around to get it more evenly distributed, just like that. And now as you mix, you don't want to mash down with the spoon. Just kind of come up from below and just kind of toss the rice around to get all of that nicely distributed. Now this rice is still very hot, so it's going to become a little stickier as it cools down. So normally what I like to do is stir in 3 separate batches. So once we have all of our vinegar seasoning mixed in, we just want to let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll give it another quick mix. And repeat, after another 2 or 3 minutes, we'll give it one final mix, and by now our rice should be sushiable. And just to test to make sure, what you want to do is wet one of your hands nice and thoroughly like this, and then you should just be able to take a little bit of rice and form it into a ball. Don't press too hard. It should stick together enough for you to be able to hold it. If the rice is too dry, it's not going to work for this. Anyway, it's finally time to get rolling, and I like using one of these little bamboo cutting mats covered in plastic. And when you're working with this nori, it's basically seaweed, and it's going to have a shiny side and a rough side. You always want to put the shiny side down. And to get the rice spread out, it really helps a ton to have your hands wet. So have like a bowl of water or do this near the sink or something, because you're going to need to re-wet your hands a couple of times. Otherwise, the rice is just going to stick right to you. So gently but firmly pat your rice into place. We want it to stick together, but we don't want to mash this into one solid block either. And now it's time to lay in our cucumber kimchi. Now, the first time I made this, I tried laying it flat all across the rice, thinking that I'd be able to roll it up and get like a kind of spiral effect going. Well, that didn't work out, so I recommend just doing the classic style where you lay everything into one log like that. And then we just want to use our fingers to hold the filling in place as we roll up and get that sealed. Whoops, the seaweed doesn't want to cooperate with me here. That's okay. Sometimes you just need to roll it up a little by hand and then give it the old squeeze to seat everything into place. And that's it for our regular rice on the inside sushi roll. But what about the rice on the outside roll? Well, it's the exact same procedure, except once we get to this step, I'm going to add some decorative sesame seeds. Just give those a quick pat so they stick on, and then we're just going to flip this thing straight over. Now we're just going to lay our cucumber kimchi in a single line, just like before, except this time on the seaweed side. And just roll that up and give it a squeeze to seal. Now that we're ready to cut our sushi roll, we want to make sure that our knife is sharp, clean, and a little bit damp. I like to keep a damp towel nearby to give it a wipe off from time to time if I need to. And as we're cutting this, we don't want to press down too hard. Think like bread. You want to do short back and forth sawing motions. But that's it. Our cucumber kimchi sushi is ready to enjoy. I really love the way the cucumber kimchi worked in the sushi roll. You get this great savory flavor from the toasted sesame seeds and sesame oil, and a wonderful spiciness from that fermented red chili paste. And if you don't want to make sushi with it, that's okay. It makes a great side dish any day of the week. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Fashion for Food. If you have, give me a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so you don't miss our future recipes. And check out one of our other great videos playing on the screen now. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.